It's the Small Business Rally Point for Monday, April 6th, 2020. My name's Pat Miller. I'm the idea coach for Small Step Solutions. And exciting day today because we're going to spend part of our day talking about dollars and cents. We're looking forward to having a live Q&A session with one of the smart money guys that I know, Mark Schanen from Supporting Strategies. So if you think about some of the things that are on your mind when it comes to money and budgeting and financing and the loan situation, the SBA thing, Mark will field your questions towards the back of our Small Business Rally Point. So start thinking about that. Also, we're going to talk to one of our good friends that happens to be in the restaurant industry. Stelio Kalkounos from the 5 o'clock Steakhouse is going to come on, and we're going to talk to him about what's really going on in the restaurant industry. How is all of this disruption affecting him and his staff? His family has been a part of making restaurants and delicious meals for decades. So we'll talk to him about what's going on in just a few moments. But first, I'd like to remind you of a couple things. The Small Business Rally Point is in partnership with Third Eye Local, also the Greater Brookfield Chamber of Commerce. They're doing great work keeping us all connected and with one another. Also, a big thanks to Jennifer Buchholz, who is our executive producer. She owns Excel and Flourish, and she's amazing. And also the Brand Crafted Social Club on Facebook. Thank you so much for your support as we continue to connect and keep everyone on the same page. If you want to make sure that you see the announcements when we're going to do the show and when we're not, text the word BIZ to 414-240-1315. Jennifer will put that in the comments as well, but make sure that you text us and let us know that you're with the part of what we're doing, and that way you won't miss future calls. But without any further ado, think about those money Q&As, because we're going to do those in just a little bit. But I do want to start by talking to Stelio. Now, if you're part of the Brand Crafted Social Club, we went down and had the best steak of my life at 5 o'clock Steakhouse over the Christmas holiday. That's where our small business Christmas party happened, at 5 o'clock Steakhouse. And I've known Stelio for a long time, since I was back in the radio industry as well. So let's bring Stelio on and say, well, hello, sir. How are you, and where are you calling in from?
Hello to everybody. I'm calling from the 5 o'clock Steakhouse. This is the headquarters, my office in my bedroom.
Okay, the office and the bedroom at the joint.
Yeah.
So let's just step way back. Restaurants are closed except for carry out or curbside, or maybe some catering gigs here or there. Just how are you doing? Because being a restaurateur has been in your family for decades, and for you as well. How are you doing? Are you holding up okay?
So personally and emotionally speaking, I'll be very frank and honest. If I didn't have a close support network, I'd be in much worse shape. I've had to rely on a really close link of friends that are in the industry that I've grown up with. Like immediately we all got on the phone and we're like, hey, what are we doing, man? This is intense. That network is critical. And this is a disaster. This is an emotional, chaos in all of our lives, and then a financial, devastating blow. This is the biggest kick in the stomach the restaurant industry has received, I think, in our lifetimes.
Why has this one been so bad? Because it came apart suddenly, like all of a sudden you're shut down, or people are just that frightened, or both?
Well, that's a big part of it. So for us that are small, independent, small local restaurants, you don't have an infrastructure that is set up to literally deal with these things, or reserve a lot of emergency reserves. So I've dug into what little I've had for my retirement. All of that money is going right now to keep that restaurant operating, paying vendors, 30-day invoices. 30 days ago, we were rocking and kicking ass, and I got 50 grand in bills due this week. And I don't want to jeopardize my credit. I don't want to jeopardize my relationship with the vendors. But now I got no revenue for the last 3 weeks. I'm actually bleeding about $4,000 to $5,000 every week on top of the debt, the bills from the past invoices.
So how many people are relying on you for a paycheck? Let's just talk just about the 5 o'clock Steakhouse, because your family has restaurants in Illinois, and let's just talk just about the one everyone that's on this call has been to and we all know and love. But it's time to do payroll. How many people, just in general, if you don't mind my asking, are you paying every payroll?
So right now, yeah, I was paying. I have 30 employees on average, and now I'm down to about 9.
Oh.
So yeah, and it hurts me personally, because I feel that it is a part of my responsibility to help them be successful, and as servers, bartenders, the tipped employees, as well as the back of the house. And I feel like I'm not providing for them right now. I feel like I'm not doing my part, although that I know that's not necessarily 100% true, but I still feel like I'm letting them down somehow. You know what I mean? And I'm doing my
Yeah.
best to keep some staff on. So I've got 9 people on. I've got a few cooks. I've got a couple servers. I've got my manager and my chef, and it's me. And we answer phones. We take in the orders and trying to push the product out as best as we can without compromising quality, the service.
Well, and
Yeah.
5 o'clock Steakhouse, it's not like a Denny's closing, right? I know that you feel a personal responsibility to keep that particular restaurant open. Is that weighing extra on you right now?
Yes, this restaurant is one of the longest standing restaurants in the city of Milwaukee, where next year will be our 75th year. And it's been a part of my thing, is like, we're the torch bearers right now. And that was already on my day-to-day agenda. Like, what are we going to do for 5 years, 10 years? What are we doing, to make sure this place is here for the long run? But now it's like, wow, that would be devastating to this neighborhood, especially because we're not in Restaurant Row. We're in a pocket in a residential neighborhood. And for someone like us to disappear, this neighborhood can go down real fast.
So what are you doing to stay open, or at least to stay with some revenue coming in? Tell us so we can support you. What are you doing?
And I thank you. What I'm doing right now is offering takeout, carry out, curbside service. People are calling in. We've got very supportive customers that have been placing the orders. Our phones have started ringing last week really well, thank God. The first couple of weeks were brutal, but last week we started getting some action on the phones. 10 a.m. People are calling, placing their orders, telling us they want to pick up at 6 o'clock. So we'll have everything ready, bagged up. We double, triple check everything, make sure it's consistent with what we serve. And then we get it out, we bring it out to them. They call us, I'm up front, boom, here you go. Here, sign the receipt, and off they go. But we're also doing delivery to hotels. So we're offering if you want to come in and wait for your food, schedule in advance, or we'll deliver to the local area hotels.
How many covers would you do on a regular night? I mean, what's the scale here? Are you down 10%, 50%, 75%? What's the ratio? Like, how much volume are you getting through?
Yeah, I'm down 90%. I'm literally down 90% in sales. And our margins are so tight. So I run a very high food cost just so I can compete with the other 30 steakhouses that are in Milwaukee. So I'm trying, and now imagine, the only reason why I made money really before is the alcohol sales, the old fashions, the brandy, the old, the vodka, the wines, and I have excellent prices on my wines. So now I'm like, I'm not selling any of that. I'm trying to do these old fashioned to go kits. So one of the things we're featuring above and beyond our menu is, here, take a bottle of brandy. I'm going to set you up with all the fruit, the mixers, chop it up, slice it, dice it. Here's a list of how we make our old fashions, laminated, printed, and we'll give that with you as well. So we'll do like Manhattan kits, old fashioned kits. If you want a Captain and Coke kit, I'll make you a Captain and Coke kit.
Anything, right?
Yeah,
I'll make it for you right now.
Please. Yeah, and we'll give you a good deal on the bottle. It's not going to be liquor store pricing, but we're doing a really good deal on the bottles, and we're including all the mixers. And the old fashioned thing has been popular. People really love our old fashions. So a lot of customers are taking that, which helps. That helps offset costs a little bit, but I'm not selling enough. I'm still bleeding, $3-4 a week. So,
yeah. So what does the forecast look like for you? If this goes on till the end of April, are you okay? If this gets into May or late May, I mean, what does the future look like? Because nobody knows when this is going to end, and we can all go back to the 5 o'clock steakhouse on a Friday night. Like, when does this? What's the future look like for you?
Yeah, the well runs dry, right? The well runs dry. If you keep pulling from it, my reserves, I'm good probably through the end of April. But if the government funding, one of the Payroll Protection Act or the disaster relief funding doesn't kick in within the next 30 days, I may have to close temporarily. I'd hate to do that. It would hurt me. It's tough. It's challenging, but if that's what I have to do, I mean, it's a realistic situation. I can't go beyond, there's a certain point where it's like, okay, I could live off my steaks here and, go down to my family's and hang out. But yeah, there comes a point that I got to stop the bleeding.
We see on social media restaurants making a lot of noise about the drive-through old fashions or carry-outs. And I think it's easy for someone to look at that and think, oh, they're doing okay. Look at, they're talking about the thing. And like, to hear you say that you're down 90% and knowing how much you're putting into this, man, my heart just goes out to you, man.
Yeah, we're a family business. Me and my dad and my aunt bought this from the corporate family 15 years ago. And, this has been our livelihoods and the livelihoods of, 20, 30 other employees. And, it's tough because they got nowhere else to go. Most of them don't have anywhere else to go. Right now, there's only a few factories hiring and pick and save and, a couple of food grocery stores in the area. Like, they're all confused on where to go. And I feel a part of that is like, I'm hopeful though. I'll be honest. I am hopeful. I think that within 30 days, I think we're gonna start by that point. That's my guess. You said it yourself. You're like end of April. I do feel something will happen around that time that we'll start getting some type of feedback or light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, I think there's a lot of folks on this call that would love to pick up an old-fashioned kit. So if you want an old-fashioned kit, put it in the comments. And my wife Abby's already raised her hand. She's jumping up and down for one of those. So there, you got one sold. Also, Kevin in the comments is saying that there are some foodie and takeout delivery groups on Facebook that if you're not listed in, he can invite you to as well. So if you don't mind dropping your email address in the chat, Stelio, because I know that people would love to support you.
Yes, please. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and we'll be back, man. Keep the doors open. I know you're trying to, and if there's something we can do to support you, we're here for you. And what we're talking about next might actually help you out as well, because Mark Shannon's going to answer some questions about loans and financing and stuff.
I'll be listening, but I'll mute my microphone.
All right, my friend. Well, hey,
just
best
in case
of luck to you. And
yeah,
just in case we swear. That's exactly right. Best of luck to you, and we will come by to pick up a old-fashioned kit and let us know if there's something this group can do for you, okay?
Thank you for supporting local restaurants, guys. Appreciate it.
Man, it's our pleasure, and we will definitely be back for another brand crafted meeting. That's for sure. That was definitely a good time.
I'll make some old-fashions for everybody.
Yay, all right. Let's do it.
First round is on me. Your next group, you heard me, okay? First round of old-fashions on me.
I'm recording this. Okay, we see
Done
that.
deal.
Next round of old fashions on Stelio.
No
We got
problem.
a good party.
With pleasure.
All right, pal.
Trust me.
Thanks for coming on. We appreciate it. Let's talk about something else, about how we might be able to help you. When I've got money questions, one of the guys that I bring up is Mark Schanen from Supporting Strategies. So what we're going to do is, this is a Q&A. So if you have a question for Mark, please jump into the chat. Jennifer will let me know, and then we'll call on you so you can ask Mark questions really about anything that you have in mind. But Mark, in general, what are you seeing out there? What are you hearing from small business clients right now as the state of this economy morphs around our new normal?
I think, well, one, nobody was really prepared for this, right? I think that's a pretty, we knew it would be like, oh, well, maybe it'll be the flu and a little worse, right? But it's a lot worse than that, I feel like, for most people. That's complete and total shutdown, like nobody was sort of anticipating that. Every banker that I talk to is swamped. Like, they have more than they can deal with. If you think about your typical banker, they probably got like 70 to 80 clients, and then they've got a bunch of people clawing at them now all of a sudden that also need help. And everybody needs help yesterday, right? Even if you had existing lines in place and whatever, those get depleted pretty quick. And most small business are not in that position where they could do that. So, I've been stretched thin the past week trying to get my clients through all of the application process. The PPP loan that you hear people talk about, the payroll provider loan, that seems like it's going to be very popular from everything that I've talked to people about. And they changed the rules on it pretty much all last week. If you follow my LinkedIn feed, right? Like, at one point it was 3.5% for 10 years. And then all of a sudden it changed to 0.5 percentage point for 2 years. And then it changed to 1%, right? So I think the banks are struggling to try and get good guidance that then they can give it to their clients. And then on top of that, like, they've got like 80 people all clawing at them at once. So there's going to be it's going to be painful, I think, as we try to get this funding out, because you still have to underwrite all this stuff. Somebody has to make sure that they're going to get paid back, or that they're lending for the right things, right? Like, are you actually going to use this to pay for people, or are you just taking the money and going, right? Like they from a reputational perspective, every bank is concerned about that, right? So,
well, I'm pretty sure I'm going to use the PPP money fashion kits from Stelio, so that's
there
what
you
I'm
go.
going to be using it for. Also, big shout out to our friend Big Mike Danielson, who had come on the show last week and was filling us in on the PPP loan. When I reached out to him and said, "Hey, Big Mike, can you come back on again?" He's like, "No, I can't. I'm just to your point. He is so busy right now managing all the folks that are trying to get money from him. He had to decline. So you're right. He is up to his eyeballs right now. So let's talk about the money. There's really a couple of buckets of money that people can expect. The first one that seems to be forgotten, especially among small business owners, is the stimulus check, that families are supposed to be getting a stimulus. Haven't heard anything about that in a while. Have you heard anything about that?
Somebody told me that they already saw a deposit in their checking account or something for it. I don't know. It's only like $1,200 per person though. So if it's a family, it's $2,500, which is not anything to sneeze at, but maybe that's half a mortgage payment, right? Or maybe a little less, right? It kind of depends on the family and where you're living and what you're doing, but that's not going to last very long. If this thing lasts 3 months or something like that, you just heard from Stelio, right? Like you're going to need to figure out something else. They also enhanced unemployment. So unemployment people are able to earn $600 more per week if they're on unemployment. The challenge with that though, is that they're also probably on COBRA benefits, right? So if they were getting healthcare benefits of any kind, now all of a sudden a good chunk of that money needs to go toward paying for healthcare. And who's going to run without healthcare right now, right?
Yeah.
Like that. Not a plan, right?
No.
Not something you want to be doing. Does everybody on the phone understand the 4 programs that SBA put into place with the CARES Act? So you understand the PPP, and then there's also something called the Emergency Income Disaster Loan. So there's 2 parts to that. There's a grant that can be up to $10,000. Supposedly that was going to be decided in 3 days, and you'd get a check. I don't think it's going to happen in 3 days. And then there's also a loan that you can do on that. And I think the loan terms on that, the last I heard, can go all the way out to 30 years, and it's at a really nice interest rate. So if you are a relatively low margin business that doesn't have a lot of room to make debt service payments and all the rest of that, that might be an avenue for you to explore. And you do that directly through the SBA. So you just need to go to the SBA website. They'll take you directly to the form. The form itself is very easy to fill out. I would encourage everybody to do it, because worst case scenario, if you're doing that and PPP, like you get the grant and then you put the rest of the money in the PPP and you call it a day, right?
Yeah.
And then the last piece of this is if you have an existing SBA 7A loan, Uncle Sam's paying for 6 months of that. So you absolutely should be talking to your lender about that and making sure that you're getting all the credit for that you should be.
Alan dropped in the comments that it looks like Wells Fargo is starting to limit how much you can apply for through them. And then Stacy added that she had heard that people had stopped, they won't take any more applications, that Wells Fargo is already capped off. Big Mike had shared that when I applied, so I put in for one, and I put it in as soon as he got the application last Wednesday. Supposedly on Friday was the first day to apply.
Yeah.
When I put mine in on Wednesday, he said he had 150 people in line ahead of me on Wednesday. And I thought I was being fast by turning it that same night. And he's like, bro, seriously, it's gonna be pretty crazy. Question from Jennifer Buchholz and a few others. Independent contractors can apply, but that starts on Friday, correct?
That's what I had heard, yeah.
Okay, I think that's September 10th is when that opens up through the same PPP portal, but that's when that is available. So that's great. So Michael and Kevin are both asking, do you think there'll be anything left, or is this the well will run dry even with, what was it, 250 or $300 billion that was approved?
It was 350 billion. It's 349 billion, I think, if you're keeping track at home, right? You're ticking it off.
What's a billion between friends, really? Yeah.
That money's going to go fast, right? I mean, let's be realistic. It's 2.5 months worth of somebody's payroll. And if you've got a pretty heavily subscribed number of people doing it, and by the way, Intuit is also running the program through QuickBooks Payments now. Like they just sent an email last night that on Wednesday, they're going to go live with some sort of way for you to go and do a streamlined application for PPP. So that money's going to go fast. I think Congress is going to have to take additional action. I would be shocked if in an election year they just kind of let the economy go down the toilet.
Yeah.
I really feel for the retail and the restaurant industry in particular, because there's such narrow margins to begin with. It's not like they were fat, dumb, and happy to begin with here. And we need to figure out a way to help them in a different way and maybe a little more productive way. I have clients who are retailers and they're all struggling. I don't know what we're going to do for them, but we need to figure something out.
Let's take a question. Stacy, do you mind sharing your question on camera here that you had for Mark? I had muted you. There
Sorry,
you
you unmuted me when I went to. Yeah, so we keep hearing mixed messages from a multitude of bankers. So we purchased an existing business, so established in 2011, but we purchased on March 1st.
Mm-hmm.
We keep being told that because we didn't purchase prior to February 15th, that we're likely not eligible for any support. Do you have any input?
I actually have a client who just bought his manufacturing business back on March 1st. Did you buy it if you buy it, there's two different ways to buy a business. You can either buy it in total, or you can just buy the assets of the business. In this case, this client bought just the assets. But what we're arguing to the bank, and I think we're going to argue to the SBA, is the employees are essentially identical. The assets are all the same. The only thing that's changed is, whatever liabilities were attached to the business, that changed when he did the purchase. Technically, the way that the documents are written, it's if you're in existence as of February 15th or prior, then you have a claim that you can make it. But if you bought it and it was like an equity purchase and you still operate under the same LLC and all the rest of that, and I'm sorry if I'm getting technical, but you should still have the ability to go ahead and claim under the existing program. If you haven't done it that way, then it needs to be a conversation with your banker, and it might delay how quickly you can get funded. But if you look at the spirit of the law, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to make that argument. And I would think the SBA administration would agree.
It sounds like there's a lot of spirit going on, that everyone's kind of agreeing that, like, hey, this is really a dumpster fire and we're just going to, we're going to roll with it as best we can. But now that we're up against these funding caps, because we're, if we are running out of money, you got to get your stuff in and you got to get it in fast. Becca has a question. Becca, can you ask your question to Mark?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So self-employed, no employees. I've looked into several different things. I don't really know what can be applied for. I had looked into it, and like the loans were not an option or grants or anything. It was just that the unemployment would probably kick in like several weeks from now. So I guess that's my question. If you're self-employed and you have no employees, so obviously the PPP loans are not an option. So what are our options?
PPP loan actually is an option for a lot of independents. So I would again talk to your bank and see what they're doing, but a lot of independents are able to go through a PPP process. It's just, again, they're prioritizing the businesses that actually have employees and W-2 employees first, and then they're going to the contractors. But all the stuff we had to fill out for our clients was excluding any outside contractors or 1099 employees or anything like that. So they have to do something for the sole props that are out there, or else it's going to be a mess, right? Then those individuals need to get taken care of too. And it can't just rely on unemployment.
Yeah. Thanks for the question, Becca.
Okay.
You mentioned the QuickBooks Online is going to have a turnkey or relatively turnkey way to apply.
That's what they're saying.
That's what they claim. Yeah. While there's still $1 billion or so left. Nikki Witek adds that Paychex has a very simple system as well. If you have 2019 payroll and Paychex, that it looks like it's a relatively easy way to get things through. Something that I heard from Big Mike and others is that even the banks aren't really clear on what to do next. Are we just kind of fumbling through the dark here? Is it really that disorganized?
Well, it's unprecedented, right? And anytime something's unprecedented, especially in a really regulated business like banking, you're going to see people struggle with it. Yeah, I think everything that you can tell just by the way that they rolled out the guidance and by the way that they changed the rules on the SBA program a couple of times, that this is the funding of it, the distribution of the funds, all the rest of it's going to be painful, right? That'd be my 2 cents.
So let's
I
talk
don't
about,
mean to sound like Debbie Downer, but I mean, that's just the reality of the situation we're in right now, right? Like we're struggling through it. I think to the extent that you can help other people out, absolutely help them out. Right. And I think everybody's going to be in for a little bit of pain here as we kind of work through this.
well, your Debbie Downerness actually leads to my next question. When we're talking about getting, say, the $10,000 grant or the PPP loan, they're phrasing it as, oh, well, the PPP loan will give you a paycheck for April and May, and it's going to be good after that. Like, are you advising people to, like, how far are you advising people to kind of spread out your runway here? Because what are you anticipating this emergency situation? I mean, obviously we can't tell, but what are you telling your clients?
I'm telling everybody to start negotiating with their vendors now. To the extent you can stretch stuff out, you need to stretch stuff out. The one thing you can control is your outflows, and everybody that has some complexity with their business, I'm telling them to do like a 13-week cash flow forecast. So that's about 3 months, right? If you do the math on that, you want to look at what's my inflow of cash, what's my outflow of cash, and what happens if my biggest client starts paying me late? What happens if they don't pay me at all, right? I'm expecting to get paid by most of the people that I work for, but I'm expecting some of them to have a bumpy couple of months here as we work through stuff. And I need to be in a position where I can still pay my people and support them so that they don't have to have a problem when they go to the bank to finance themselves, right? They need to have a clean set of financials. Other businesses are probably in the same boat where, we need to be cognizant of what our obligations are to our employees. And then part of that's going to be, how do I make sure I got cash for that? And yes, Jennifer, there are tools for that. I do that with all my clients. We have a standard sort of basic template that we can work through with people. If you're trying to do it yourself, the simple way to do it is, here's all my inflows of everything that I generate cash from and how people pay me. And then you want to stress test that piece of it, because that's where you're going to have pain right now. And then here's where all my outflows are. And can I renegotiate those? Can I stretch those out? Can I have 3-month payment terms, right? Different things. Like, lenders are definitely willing to work with you right now because they would much rather not own your house, right? They don't want to have a 2008 scenario again. They want to try to work with you, get paid. And even if it means that they lose interest, they would rather do that than take a bath on the actual asset itself. Does that make sense?
Pretty emotional for a business owner, though, to think about, well, I got to start, calling my vendors. But if you're telling people to do that, you got to get them over that mentality that, okay, maybe it is better in 6 weeks, but what if it's not? Be proactive. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. And look, I think every single credit extension person that's out there is going to understand this is extraordinary circumstances that you're in. They are not going to hold it against you in the future when you say, look, like COVID-19 kind of shut down the entire country for the better part of a month and a half. What do you want me to do? Right? Like, as a responsible business owner, there's no flipping way I would have thought of that. Right? I don't think anybody was anticipating that, even a month and a half, 2 months ago. So,
yeah. If you have any additional questions for Mark, let's get it in the chat now. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you want to cover that you think is important that we haven't touched on?
There's some traditional financing tools that are out there for you guys too, if you need to. If for some reason you can't go through SBA programs and that kind of stuff, there are 401k rollover programs and things like that for investing in your business if you needed to. There's a couple other things. It's not ideal, but if you just need to get through the next couple of months, if there's one thing we learned from 2008, it's that a lot of times just having the liquidity to survive is really what you need more than anything.
Yeah.
So,
I'm not sure if you can. Alan, I'm going to surprise you by bringing you on. Can you comment at all on the 401k stuff that Mark was just mentioning? Is that something, I don't want to put you in a situation where you can't comment, but can you share any information on that?
Yeah, with the CARES Act, and I just posted a link, the Voya put together a summary of it. They are waiving the RMDs for this year. So anyone over 70 and a half, you don't have to take your required minimum distribution this year. They're also waiving that 10% penalty if you're under 59 and a half. So if you do have to tap into it, you're going to pay income tax on it, but you're not going to pay that additional 10% penalty. So that's a nice little feature to have in there if people do need to tap into their 401ks.
And if your income looks like it's zero, then maybe it is worthwhile for you to think about it.
But that is unusual. A lot of folks on this call, maybe many of the folks on this call, their biggest pot of money happens to be sitting in a retirement account like that, and not to get 10% penalty by touching it. Has that ever happened before?
I've never seen it come up before. In 2008, they did not waive the penalties. They waived RMDs, but they did not waive penalties on early withdrawal. So this is new.
And that's significant. That's the first time I've heard that. So thank you for sharing it. And for someone, Stelio mentioned that he was tapping into his retirement funds. That's saving him a significant chunk of money. And for other people that have to do it as well. That's really interesting. Is there anything else that, from your point of view, that's changed like that we need to know about?
The rules are changing constantly, like Mark had said, and there's nothing else out there right now that I have seen, but we're having daily meetings basically on how these rules are going to be implemented. So if I hear of anything, I'll let you guys know. But at this point, that's the main part that came out of the CARES Act from the retirement side.
That's great. Thank you very much for sharing that. That could be a real difference maker for us. Jennifer Buchholz, you said that you have a way that you're talking with some of your vendors. Can you hop on and share that with us?
Well, so it's one of those things where, first of all, I want to work off the premise that we're all still going to be in business after. So if that's my premise, right, then I want to start to figure out how can I support people going through. And so as an example, simple example, my cleaning lady. She's not coming in to clean. Goodness knows I should have a blurred background soon because I don't know what's all happening behind me. And so what I'm negotiating with her is, well, she's also probably not going to get unemployment. There's other stuff going on. I'm working with her to say, I will pay you 50% of what I would normally be paying you as if you were coming here cleaning. And then when the time comes and we're all back up and running, I'm going to just kind of get that off on my upcoming cleaning things. So I'm sort of like trying to do some prepays, and I'm using that philosophy of how can I help, if I'm in a position to do that, how can I help in some cases so that it has a little bit of a less impact? Because the reality is she might just have to go get a different job and she might not be in business, 3 months from now, but I'd rather kind of contribute on the good side of that. So just one of the ideas that I'm trying to leverage then into other types of things.
Yeah, that's really smart. That's really smart. Thanks for sharing that. Mark, I want to ask you one more question before we let you go here. We were talking about things just being up in the air and really no one knows what's going on. We kind of brushed up on the subject, but what do you think the credit reports are going to say? What do you think folks are going to say if you just can't make a payment? Like, I know we don't really care about our credit score right now, but just, do you think that there's going to be a grace period that's baked into all this?
I think they're going to have to do something, right? I mean, realistically, though, what you should be doing is proactively reaching out to your lenders. So if you have a mortgage, talk to the person who does your mortgage, right? If you have, because a lot of these guys are doing a 6-month grace period. What you don't want to look like is somebody who wasn't proactively managing this stuff. If you reach out to your credit card carrier, odds are good that they're going to have some sort of a payment plan or something you can work through. They want to make sure that you're looking like a responsible creditor, right? Like, that's what they care about more than anything. And being proactive and talking to them is much better than you go radio silent, you don't make a payment, and oh crap, suddenly we have a problem, right? Like, having been a CFO of a lending business for a very long time, I can tell you, like, that's usually like the first fact that you look for is, are they talking to us? Okay, great. Did they provide us with financials? Do we know kind of where they sit? Do we know they can pay us back, right? Those are all big fact patterns that you're going to look for. And as long as you know that they can pay you back, you're willing to work with anybody as long as you get paid eventually, right? Losing your principal is a much bigger deal than losing some interest. That's always been a rule in lending.
I've never heard fact pattern before. That sounds like the name of my 3rd album, Fact Pattern. Love it. Alan Fisher dropped into the chat. Oh, it's great. Fact pattern. That's amazing. Alan Fisher dropped into the comments that he was wondering, didn't the act talk about not reporting credit hits with a deferral or a forbearance? Did that go in there? Does that ring a bell to you?
I haven't read through the entire act. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I read through the parts that I'm more
3
interested
months.
in.
3 months.
Seriously, we brought you on as the expert. You're in Ireland. You didn't read the whole thing?
Yeah, I didn't. I read through most of the business stuff, most of the business related items that were in there. I did not read through all the consumer protections that might be in there. But
Okay.
again, I would be shocked if it bled through into your personal credit rating.
Yeah. Okay. Andy's got something to add here. So Andy, you're saying 401ks while available might be your last resort. Would you advise that?
Yeah, I was just adding into what Alan was sharing before, that just something to keep in mind, that if you're planning on tapping into retirement plan accounts, the market with where it's at right now compared to where it was, is 30 to 40% down, that essentially if you're taking a distribution, yes, there are some advantages to doing so. However, you'd be locking in your losses and selling at a low point, which you wouldn't have the opportunity to let those funds recover, much like in 2008, 2009 when the market crashed, and people that held their money in their accounts, they fared much better than the ones that cashed out immediately. So just something to take into consideration. Obviously, I know we're in some pretty extreme circumstances right now, which it may be an item of last resort, but just to reach out to the resources that you have available to you to kind of calm those nerves and talk things through before you make any decisions.
Yeah. Even if you're getting an interest loan or something like that, it's at 6% and you give up 20 to 30% in market appreciation in the future. That's ugly.
Oh.
Right.
Wow. Well, thanks for adding that, Andy. And you also named my fourth album, Locking in Losses. That's going to be the fourth album right there. So between Fact Pattern and Locking in Losses, this has been a very productive call for me today. But Mark, for coming on, I appreciate your guidance as usual. And you put a lot out on LinkedIn. Can you drop a couple of the links in the chat, or if someone wants to get a hold of you, like put your contact information in there? Because I mean, you're a shining light to a lot of us right now, because I don't know what the hell you're talking about half the time, and you end up answering the question. So we appreciate it.
No problem.
No problem. All right. Mark Shannon's LinkedIn is now up inside the chat, which is great. Okay, so we wanted to talk to Stelio and see how he's doing as someone that's on the front lines of keeping his restaurant open. The drive-through brandy old-fashioned kit, I think Abby's already ordered one, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll be driving by later on tonight, Stelio, so make sure you have that out for us. Also, Mark Shannon, of course, for coming on and dropping knowledge. We do appreciate that. A couple of announcements about the show and some things that are going on. The first thing is a big benefit for you. The Brookfield Chamber Q Co-op that we announced on the show 2 weeks ago, or a week ago, it feels like a month ago, is actually happening. Carol and the team of the Brookfield Chamber of Commerce are moving forward. And if you missed what that is, it is a marketing co-op for the next 60 days where we are taking Brookfield Chamber members, teaming them up together and basically saying, we're in this together and we're going to co-promote. And that's going to mean sharing a newsletter to your database and interacting on social media with the folks that are part of the co-op. So reach out to Carol and Melissa and the team at the Brookfield Chamber, because they are putting together the list. And I think the first email is going to drop next week. So you have until I think Wednesday or Thursday to get in on that. So if you want to extend your reach to people that aren't on your email list and help each other, and that's what the Brookfield Chamber does, make sure that you get a hold of Carol and the team at the Brookfield Chamber this week. So that's important. Also this week, tomorrow, we're going to do the Idea Slam, but we're going to do it in a little bit of a different way. The Local First organization invited me to come on and do their Educate and Elevate series. So tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock on Zoom, I'm going to be doing a full-blown Idea Slam. They're registering people right now that need some help. Idea Slam is a group brainstorm event. So if you want to come by and offer your genius, Michael Rampolla, or if you have some questions that you'd like to get answered and looking for some ideas, head over to the Facebook feed for Local First, and you can get the tickets there on their Eventbrite channel. And you can also maybe sign up and have your business get some help from me and the folks that are on the Facebook page. Also, Chris Grow is on this call, and Chris Grow and his partner Jandel dropped some major knowledge on Cold Night in January, our night school for the Brand Crafted group. If you weren't there and didn't learn what they had to share in our deep dive for digital, you got to pay attention because Thursday night we're doing a premiere of Brandcrafted's Night School, a deep dive on digital. And Chris and Jandel did such a great job explaining Facebook ads, Google ads, and other marketing strategies that are really valuable right now. Unlike in January where we charged for it, this is going to be free. So it goes live Thursday night, and the links are going to be up in the Brandcrafted group, and we encourage you to take a look in on that. The other thing, and I have not announced this anywhere else, so don't hold me to it, but I'm going to do it. Just I don't have it all put together yet. Going as fast as I can. On the 21st of April, we were going to have our next night school event. And then, I don't know, things happened, so we had to cancel it. Well, the panelists still wanted to do it. I still wanted to do it. So we're going to do it. We're going to do Brandcrafted Night School just like this Thursday night, the 21st of April. Thursday night, the 21st of April is going to be called You and Improved. And it's about how you think about your business, how you operate your business, and how you do better doing whatever you do. And the lineup is unbelievable. Taryn Sartler is going to come on and talk about time management, how to organize your calendar, how to think about how you use your time. Allison Orlovsky is going to come on, and she's going to talk about business relationships. She's normally like a romantic and love kind of coach relationship person, but she's going to talk about some best practices of keeping up your network and keeping up your business relationships, which is really valuable right now. We're also going to have Jamie Radomski, who's on the call here, and she's going to talk about professional organization. She's a genius when it comes to keeping your house organized. She's also someone that can help you organize your professional life. So we'll give her some time. Also, David Marlowe is going to come on and talk about what do you do, why do you do it, and what is your calling. And then Ariel Kopak is going to come on, and she's going to talk about the gray matter between our ears and how we think about our business, how we stay positive during these turbulent times. So it's going to be at least an hour of some terrific content. And I think I'm going to charge a couple of bucks for it. It's not going to be the $30 ticket price that's there right now. So we're going to cut the price way down, hopefully fill up the Zoom room, and hear from some really smart people. So Thursday night, the 21st, put it on the calendars. And as soon as I get it done, I will zip that link out through the text notification, through Brandcrafted, my email blast, carrier pigeon, smoke signals, the whole 9 yards. So we're pushing off Idea Slam till tomorrow afternoon on behalf of Local First. So we hope to see you there. And the Small Business Rally Point will continue again next week. And that's going to be 3 o'clock, as it always is. Answering a quick question for Ron Wimmer and for Michael Rampolla. It'll be an evening event like Brandcrafted night schools normally are. So it'll be 7 o'clock on Tuesday night, the 21st. So that's going to be an evening event. Get all your work done. And as Jennifer's saying, get a margarita and learn something. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you text us. Text the word biz to 414-240-1315. And she's dropping that link in the chat to make sure that you're on the text distribution. And a big thank you to Mark Schanen for dropping the Q&A and the knowledge for us on the finances. And much love to Stelio and his team at the 5 o'clock Steakhouse. We're wishing you luck, pal. And to all of you that tuned in today and contributed with your questions and networking with one another, if you look around this chat, put it on the Brady Bunch view and see everybody looking at each other. This is the network inside the network, and it just makes me feel better to see all of you, and hopefully you guys feel the same way. So with that, we're going to close out the Small Business Rally Point for April 6th. We'll talk to you next Monday. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.